F1 in Miami was more interesting than IndyCar at Barber. The hybrid is a failure. Everyone is mad at Will Buxton, but I think I have a solution here. I'm Rachel, and this is my race rambling for IndyCar at Barber. So this is delayed. I usually would put out, if there's F1 and IndyCar, I would usually put out the IndyCar video on Tuesday. I'm recording this on Tuesday. I had recorded on Sunday night, and I was really frustrated and angry. I'm more calm now, and I can see the bigger picture, and I actually have found my solution through this. So I hope this is all a bit cathartic for you, because I hate when people are just angry all the time, especially about IndyCar. I'm like, you're angry because you love it, but you don't attract fans that way. And nobody's happy when you're just angry all the time. I think there's things to take away and things to learn from. And I think IndyCar fans are maybe like more tuned in to situations with IndyCar and think they have more of a say than other series, which is interesting. So I don't know. We're going to talk about some of the high points and a little overview of the race before we talk about the hybrid and then get into what I think part of the solution is. So let's just start getting into it. I want to start with a big positive. So according to Nathan Brown, IndyCar landed an average audience of 914,000 for the Barber race. It was up significantly from last year with 763,000 on NBC, so both on network. Granted, I don't know if last year it was against a NASCAR race because this year it wasn't. That would make a difference. But things are going up. This is an improvement. This is a big increase from last year. So that's a positive to take away because people were freaking out about TV numbers recently. And this is something else that's interesting, not really the point of my video, but it's interesting that it seems attendance is going up and television viewership is struggling. I don't have a conclusion on that or a takeaway or why that might be, but I just think that's interesting. Well, I think why it might be is people like racing. They watch F1 and they want to go to a race, so they go to Indy, and it's not translating for whatever reason. Why it's not translating, I think part of my solution is revealing on that. Okay. Little roundup for the weekend. I want to give a shout out to Fox for their updated quali graphic. That was helpful, especially considering some of the timing and graphics issues that have been happening from IndyCar and Fox, both of them. So it was nice to see that they finally updated the qualifying graphics so you can see if somebody is up on the time or if they're falling below the time and what the cutoff line is. That is appreciated. I want to shout out Fox for that. So obviously Pillow won pole and he won the race. This is 3 out of 4 race wins for him this season so far, the other belonging to Kyle Kirkwood at Long Beach, which makes sense. And you've just got to, like, give it up to him, man. It's not even like Ganassi is doing particularly well. It's not like anything like that. It's just Alex Palou has got something figured out, and you have to appreciate his talent and ability there. Like in the same way, I didn't love watching Max win every single race. It was quite boring. But at a certain point, it's just like, wow. And I do think it can make for boring racing, but again, like I'll kind of touch on this, but you've got to look at the racing beyond P1. Like at a certain point, we were able to do that with Max Verstappen in F1. I think we've got to start doing that here, showcasing the racing beyond that. And again, that's something I would touch on as part of my solution. At the same time, I want to touch on like a lot of the F1 comments, like about him moving to F1. And you know what, this is part of my solution, but I don't explicitly touch on it, so I'll touch on it here. I think that we can't be wishing away our stars. And part of that comes from we need to appreciate our stars more. I think if Palou left, it'd be a big loss to F1. If Pato O'Ward left, it'd be a big loss to F1. If a lot of our personalities left, it'd be a big loss to F1. And even I was kind of like dunking on the driver intros where they say where they are and who they are and where they're from, because it's kind of funny watching everybody do it differently. And my dad was like, well, you know, it's showcasing personality. And I think that's true, and I think we need to find a way to do that more so we can build the presence. And I touch on this, I firmly believe a lot of the issues with IndyCar is a packaging issue. And I think Fox is working on this. We need to work on building up our stars, keeping them here, keeping them happy here. Like, people are here for a reason. Even Oscar Piastri said, like, he's so scared of Indy, he couldn't do it. He appreciates the IndyCar drivers for racing in Indianapolis. Like, there's something special about IndyCar drivers, and we've got to figure out how to frame that to them And a lot of them know it. Like, even, I don't know if he's telling the truth, but Pato O'Ward said he would never step foot in an F1 paddock again if he got an IndyCar race in Mexico. Like, we've got to find ways to keep them happy and keep them here, because the drivers are the sport. And I don't think we can lose sight of that. And so for anybody who's kind of like, well, Alex Bowles should just leave and go to F1, I really hope he doesn't. Maybe it's boring, which again we'll touch on, but like, a dominance like this in a spec series is crazy. You have to appreciate it. Okay, moving on a little. Lundgaard did quite well. He finished second in the race, and he's actually second in the championship right now, which I didn't realize. I guess he's just been pretty consistent, because this is the thing. The season bar below has been very interesting, but you never know where people are going to end up. Again, I'll touch on this later. That's kind of what I'm saying. The whole video is kind of building up to my solution here. But like, we haven't seen that quite, and we have to find a way to showcase that. The fight for who would win P2 in 2023 was interesting. How do we hype that up here? And he had a great performance. He had some of the most entertaining moments of the race. And I have some points here I want to mention, because he had some real overtakes. He overtook O'Ward when they were 14th and 15th. Remember that. And he overtook Scott McLaughlin a few laps later for what was second place while he was in 12th place. He overtook into 12th place for what finished second. Remember that. Now moving on to Scott Dixon, biggest mover. Most of that happened in the pits. Remember that. And that's also actually very interesting, considering he started trying to do a two-stop and had to abandon it. A lot of strategy at play here. That's making a big difference. Remember that. Okay. The hybrid, because we have to, and then I'll get to my solution here that I've been already hinting at for this whole video. So obviously the hybrid is not working, but we have to think about why, because obviously the hybrid is the trigger, but it's not necessarily the sole cause, and the solution isn't necessarily to remove it, because let's be serious, Honda and Chevy are not removing that. They paid a lot of money for that. This is marketing for them. Right now it doesn't seem like good marketing, but it's not going away. We have to be serious about that. It's not going away anytime soon. So we have to find a way to adapt around that. And part of the issue is that you add the hybrid and it adds a bunch of weight, and then you can't just pick the same tires that was raced on last year. The tires have been a big issue, and specifically, drivers are only doing about 80% of what they can do, because they are killing the tires if they don't. Was it St. Pete or Long Beach? Maybe both. The soft tire, the alternate, was just far too soft. It would, you couldn't even do 10 laps on it. It was atrocious. Other times it's been too hard. At oval specifically, it's been too hard. We had an issue with that last year. Last year was also kind of unlucky, because there were some issues with paving, making things different, different. But yeah, last year the tires were too hard on some ovals, and there was just no deg, and that killed a lot of the racing and the overtaking, because people were just going forever, killing a bunch of the strategy. And also there was just no overtaking now, because it's not like somebody could come on fresh tires and overtake a bunch of people with dead tires. And I want to note that IndyCar did try to adapt to that. In Nashville 2024, the last race of the season last year, they introduced the alternate tire to the oval, because usually when you do ovals, you're only on the primary tire. You're not even picking between different tires. Just let you pick between the two tires to increase strategy. And I'm going to bring a quote here I found from Firestone that was posted on the IndyCar website. So they said, following 2 tests on the Nashville Oval, we worked with IndyCar to create differentiation in tires that would provide fans and competitors with an exciting race. To achieve that goal, Firestone is providing an alternate tire for the Music City Grand Prix. Lessons learned from introducing alternates on an oval last season at St. Louis also contributed to our preparation. The goal for the alternate tire is to have significant wear and degradation to the point that the team pit stop strategies could change as tires may wear before the end of a fuel stint. They are also designed for the different grip levels of the 2 types of tires to aid in creating more passing opportunities. So, Firestone and IndyCar realized there was an issue, and they figured out a way to adapt. Was it perfect? Not necessarily, but I think Nashville is an interesting enough race. It was obviously better than a lot of the ovals we had, and it's just good to see that they are trying something. And I also want to point out that F1 is in a phase of trying things. They are mandating 2 stops in Monaco as opposed to the usual 1-stop rule. it's not embarrassing for somebody to try something. I think we should encourage IndyCar for trying things, because the only way we'll ever figure anything out is by trying things. And so I think this is a good thing, and I think it's positive that IndyCar has tried to choose things, and they're trying to change things again. In Indy next week, in this coming weekend at the IMS road course, they're mandating that you run 2 sets of both tires. So usually you have to run 1 set of primaries and 1 set of alternates. Now you have to run 2 of each, which is going to increase the racing, because then they won't just be driving on 80. The drivers will actually be driving to full capacity, because they have to do 3 pit stops anyways. So they might as well use the tire, which will hopefully create more passing opportunities. The other thing is this is also increasing the amount of pit stops. Instead of a 1 mandated pit stop, you're now mandating at least 3 pit stops, which will hopefully increase the strategy decisions more. And this is part of my solution, but not the whole solution, and we will get to that in a second. I still want to acknowledge the hybrid, because the tire is an easy fix, but also something that can easily go very wrong, which we've been seeing recently. Again, the hybrid's not going anywhere, and I'm not convinced it's done what they want it to do. And it's unfortunate that Fox has abandoned any graphic for that, as NBC had a graphic for that. Was honestly confusing. So I'm kind of happy they did abandon it. And I also don't think it's I don't think it makes enough sense, or is easily understandable enough to a new IndyCar fan, which is who we have to try turn the broadcast for. And IndyCar has been doing that. There was some explanations on the screen during races, which was helpful. I think that's a very good thing. I think, people dig on Will Buxton for creating stories out of everything and for dumbing things down, and I think that's actually exactly what IndyCar needs. And I will get into that again. But that's another reason why I think Will Buxton was a great choice. First of all, he's just a great commentator. I've been very happy listening to him the past couple of weeks, and I think it was been positive to have a face in F1 in IndyCar, just to have a familiar face, a familiar voice. But also his ability to sort of make something out of nothing, I think, is special, and his ability to really dumb down information is, I don't think we can overstate that importance. I went into Drive to Survive dumb, and by the end, I'm yeah, obviously Will Buxton, I know what you're you don't have to explain that, but it can be helpful. And I also think we're forgetting people turn on the TV to kind of turn off their brain, and so the more explanation somebody gives them, the better. Not all of them are watching us, super focused with an understanding of everything already. So I think that's something important to add. I do think it is really time for a new chassis. I've been kind of pushing for I've been pushing away from making changes to the car, or I've been slightly resistant to that. I was very resistant to the idea of introducing different engines, which I don't know. I think it'd be nice to have better integration with the hybrid and things like that, but I don't think we'd go back to a V6 engine or anything, or a V12 engine or anything. But I think it is obvious at this point that something needs to change with the car, just based on the fact that, we've added an aero. We've added an aero screen to the car. We've added a hybrid to the car, to the same chassis. It's just kind of time for something. And I do think that we're at the point where this could be a good investment, because it's gotten to the point. In recent times, the packaging has been the issue with IndyCar. The product was great. It now feels since the hybrid, something has changed to the product that is impacting the packaging, but I still think that this can be solved through packaging. One other thing, and I think that's important, what I said there, and we're going to get to the solution in 1 second, but I just want to mention one other thing. Yellows, since the hybrid has introduced, thank you to MurderHawk500 on Twitter for shouting this out. So since the hybrid was introduced at Mid-Ohio last year, we've had 3 opening lap cautions at Mid-Ohio. 1 was for a hybrid failure and green the rest of the way. 3 of the street or road courses ran caution-free, and 1 race, Toronto, had multiple yellows, which obviously Toronto, Detroit, they're going to have yellows because it's a street circuit that's very tight. You're going to hit the wall. If you remember Toronto, which I actually still never watched. I was there. I've never watched it. Oh, that accident. Oh, I didn't like being there for that. Sorry, I just hit my mic. But, and again, that's the thing. You never want to wish yellows, because the yellow means a crash. But they do bring excitement and differences. And so I think it is important to note that, because you can just restart the hybrid, you don't need the safety crew to come in and turn it back on for you. It can dull the racing. So maybe we, like, that's just an artificial rule. Maybe we turn that off and you do need the safety crew to come. I don't know. Anyways, my solution. So again, I think we can now acknowledge that the product has changed negatively, but I still believe that this can be improved through packaging. And what hinted me to this was a Will Buxton tweet that made everybody angry. So I'm going to read this out to you. Will Buxton tweeted, "I've been lucky enough to travel to racetracks all over the world for the past 25 years, and few have left the same impression as Barber. It is both beautiful and brutal, and I loved getting to drive it post-race with the GP winner as a passenger. Can't wait to return." Somebody responded to him and said, "Shame the race was boring. IndyCar yet to kick off action-wise this season. Pillow in a class of one." Will Buxton responded to that, and he said, "Tell me how a driver showing generational talent is boring. Tell me how a driver in a new team fighting through to second is boring." So that's Pillow, and then Lundgaard. "Tell me how a driver in one of the smallest teams finishing fourth is boring." That is Venus VK. And "Tell me how the GOAT, Scott Dixon, making up 14 places with no cautions is boring." And people got mad. I saw a Reddit thread about this. People were feeling lots of ways about it. And this is when I get frustrated with people being just purely negative about IndyCar, because just being negative doesn't do anything. I think we need to look for solutions. And I think I've done that, not to toot my own horn, but this really clicked it for me, because this is all entertaining. Like, Will Buxton is right, this is entertaining. This is not boring. So why was the race boring? It's the packaging. Something about the broadcast is not able to communicate this information in a way that is followable, in a way that people feel like they know what is happening, or even understand the excitement that they don't know what is happening. And again, like, Pillow seems like he's just going to win most of these races. I feel like he's already won the championship. Yes, but there's ways we can repackage this. And again, I think it's important we think about these solutions, because if you're just negative, nobody wants to be a fan. There's a reason I haven't been incentivized to become a fan of NASCAR. It's because every time I see anything on my timeline about NASCAR, it's just people being negative. So how about we start finding ways? And again, I think people, IndyCar fans especially, feel a certain responsibility to promote the sport. That's kind of why I make these race ramblings about IndyCar, because I want to help grow the sport. And so we can't just be negative all the time, because that's all anybody will see and they won't watch the sport. Okay, so I think specifically the issue is a lot of this has happened through strategy. So Pillow won from talent, he's crazy, whatever. Lundgaard won because of strategy. He started 8th and he finished 2nd. That happened through some overtakes, yes, but also through strategy. Rena's VK started 4th and finished, or 5th and finished 4th. Whatever. But Scott Dixon making up 14 places and being the biggest mover, that was through strategy. That is through pit stops. But that's not being communicated in a way that anybody can track. And to be honest, even I, who watch IndyCar, I understand IndyCar, I understand strategy, I understand refueling, I understand how all this impacts it. It's gotten lost in the sauce for me recently even. And so we've got to figure out a way to get through that. Because especially as the hybrid may dull the racing, we have to find a way to make the broadcast still interesting, so we can understand what's happening and see strategy playing out. I don't necessarily know what this looks like, but I really think that strategy is what makes IndyCar. It's what's attracted me to IndyCar. I will watch a race and all of a sudden Scott Dixon will win, and I don't understand how he's won, but it's because he's crazy at refueling. He did less pit stops than everybody, and that's how he won the race. And again, that's easier to understand when it's Scott Dixon winning a race, because he's the tire whisperer and he knows how to create fuel out of air. It's harder when it's a Lundgaard situation. And that's really my point. We've got to figure out a way to make that translate and really lean into it, because I think that's the show with Indy. In F1, strategy almost does not exist, and everybody does the same thing. The only time strategy is a thing is if you get lucky, like Lando Norris tends to do in Miami, and he will win because he will be lucky with his pit timing in a safety car, or if there's switching between wets and inters and slick tires. That's the only time we really see strategy in F1. We see strategy in IndyCar every single race. And these moves are moving towards increased strategy with adding the alternates to Nashville, with increasing the amount of tires and pit stops you have to use in Indianapolis that increases the strategy. And so we've really got to find a way to translate that. I think that might be through graphics. Chart when people have last pit and what strategy it seems they are doing. Chart where if somebody's doing a 2-stop, put the order of the 2-stop. If somebody's doing a 3-stop, put the order of the 3-stop and where those people are, so we can see what's happening. And I think this can also be aided, of course, through commentary, which can be hard to track, but I think it's important we do that to help tell the story. Say, hey, Dixon pitted here. He was at this point. He's now ended up here in between these people who are on this strategy, and keep an eye on him. And note that as people fall into the pits, he's staying ahead. Because even like Pato O'Ward had a fantastic strategy in Indy 500 last year. All of a sudden, he was like nowhere, and then he was like in the top 5, and he almost won. And that was through strategy. And even I to this day don't understand how he did that. I think we need to do a better job of like translating that like less pit stops can save you time if you get it right. But also more pit stops can be faster because you could just go. And again, I'm not the best at figuring out how that works, but we've got to figure that out because there's something exciting there. And again, I think that is a big differentiator in a positive way from F1. Okay. That's my point. And even like, because again, this was an exciting strategy race and somehow it got lost in the sauce for me. And that is my solution. I've just ranted for 22 minutes straight. I hope that this was maybe more of a positive reflection on Barber than what a lot of you saw. I hope if Fox is listening to this at all, that maybe you can take this into consideration. And again, I want to say Fox has been doing a great job. I think I really appreciate their promos. Again, the promos like are one thing. I think maybe people had too high expectations of those promos. And again, like the schedule could use work, but it's not necessarily a Fox issue. I hope this was nice to hear for a lot of you. I'm curious to see what you guys think, or if you agree with me that strategy is something we should lean into. I think it kind of is the only way, because again, if the racing is harder to solve, the tires will help, but we've got to figure out how to best package what we have, and I think it's still a pretty good product. So yeah, let me know what you think. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, if you have anything to add, I'd love to hear it. I really appreciate all of your comments. I like to know that people are listening and they have thoughts. So, and I also hope that the microphone works this time. I have a microphone. It decides what ear it wants to come out of. I tested it this time. It should be able to come out of both ears. But thank you for my very lovely commenter who comments on all of my videos. I can't remember your username right now because it's not really a name. It's like more of a word, but thank you for commenting every video, and thank you for bearing through my audio mishaps, because you're always the one who shouts it out for me, and then I can go and fix it in the podcast, but I can't change the audio on YouTube, which is unfortunate. And all the videos it's happened on have done decently well, so I don't want to like delete them and like repost them. Anyways, that is my race rambling. Thank you for listening. I will catch you next week for the Indianapolis road course, and we'll see how that works out. Also, let me know if there's any other Indy 500 specific videos you want me to make. I'll do a qualifying wrap up and review. I will be going to the Indy 500. It will be my first time, so I'm probably going to do a vlog. But then that also means commentary for that, and the Monaco race might be delayed as I will be traveling. So yeah, thank you for listening. If you are listening to this and you'd like to watch it, it's available on YouTube. If you're watching this and you'd like to listen to it, it's available on all podcasting platforms. The links are below. Please like, subscribe, follow, comment, rate, and all the things. And I will see you next week.